January ended up being a pretty volatile month for silver. Are we expecting the same sort of movements in February? Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com. This is our look ahead for silver during February. We saw plenty of volatility for precious metals at the beginning of January. As the month went on, some of that volatility calmed down. So in this video, we're going to take a look ahead to the month of February, see what we can expect, the big levels to watch. We'll jump on the chart and catch up with what happened during January. I'll come back, talk about the factors to watch out. Then we'll go back, look at things in a lot more detail and see if there's a trade. As usual, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, if you can click on subscribe, support the channel, and we'll continue to push out content like this. First of all, let's catch up with the moves in silver in January.
Just take a quick look at the price of silver during January. If we change this and just have a look at where it came into the year. So it ended 2019 trading around $17.85. And then we saw that run up on the US-Iran tensions and action between the two countries. But if you checked where the price was now and you hadn't seen it during January, you could think it'd been pretty boring because we're trading pretty much where we were at the end of 2019. So silver has been flat. Let's just take this out. So although we've had day-to-day volatility during January, it's ended the month pretty much where it started. I'll talk a bit more about the reasons why and maybe why we are seeing the price under pressure over the last couple of weeks. Then we'll come back and look at this in a lot more detail.
So we saw a very volatile start to precious metals beginning of January. The military actions between the US and Iran saw plenty of investors looking for a safe haven. We saw the price of silver pushed up. But as things calmed down almost just as quickly as they started, we saw the price of silver trading fairly flat and a bit weaker during the month. The next focus in January was, of course, the coronavirus, which started in China. As we've seen concerns there about the effect on the Chinese and the wider economy, we have seen industrial materials such as silver and, of course, the likes of copper getting hit by investor sentiment, worried about a drop in demand. So what does this mean going into February? We'll take a look in a second. First of all, let's take a quick look at the big levels to watch. Lots of resistance levels left in the slide during January, from about $18.85 down to about $18.10. I think this $18 area is a really critical one for silver. And on the downside, there's another equally important area to watch, I think from $16.85 to $17.30. So I think the low 1700s, $17, another key potential area of support. Let's jump back onto the chart and put a bit of color behind these numbers.
So if we focus on the price, and then we'll bring in the other stuff afterwards. So last year we saw multi-year highs hit for silver, up at $19.60. And since then it's drifted off into December, back to $16.50. It's tried to stage this recovery into January, and it's just been flat since. If we flip this over to a short-term chart, if we look first of all this trend from September, let's just pick up on that. So the market was sliding lower off those September highs and into December. Then we saw it finally pick up some momentum and rally again into those military action between US and Iran. So it traded as high as $18.85. But since then, it's just been in retreat, and we've almost got a mini version of this going on. Let's just take a look at the moves from these highs in January. So I flip this over to a 4-hour view now, and you can just see the market's just been carving its way lower, and maybe the risk in the short term move back to those late January lows around about $17.30. And I think we really need to clear $18.10, $18.40 to try and get some sort of momentum. At the moment, it just looks like a market that's stuck, a pretty unexciting market. But let's take it back and look at the longer term view and see if we can see if there's a trade to be done. So if we went back to the 2018 lows for silver, just below $14 an ounce, we are still in that recovery, which is a long way off. That's down. That line's coming in around about $14.80, $15. So perhaps with the concerns about the coronavirus, the impact it's going to have on the Chinese economy, the short to medium term, maybe we will see this market perhaps squeeze a bit lower, back to those lows from late Jan, ahead of 17, and perhaps even lower still, back into the range we were in December, sub $17. So you can see, I think it's pretty clear that it really needs to get a move back on and reclaim $18. So for me, it wouldn't surprise me if it just chopped around the price of silver. So I think perhaps the opportunity here, if you really want to be a buyer, looking at it now, we wouldn't want to be a buyer just yet. The price is still under pressure. And perhaps if we push back towards those low 17s, that's the opportunity with a stop under $16.50. Let's bring in the indicators. So you can see we've got something of a mixed picture here. This is the 10-day RSI. Did a pretty good job eventually at the top. Those early Jan highs up above 1850. Did a pretty good job up there. But it's just stuck in the middle. It's been drifting lower as the market's been drifting lower. So no real signal there. But again, if we saw the price squeeze a bit lower from here, perhaps that's the opportunity. And the same thing with the MACD. Rolled over up here mid-Jan after those highs. And again, just tailing lower. And, sometimes markets do go boring. And I think this is what we've got in silver at the moment. We had that great run in the summer. Fantastic move higher from silver. And at the moment, it just seems to be drifting along. So I think perhaps the risk is to squeeze a bit lower. I think it gets a lot more interesting if it starts pushing down towards $17, but it wouldn't surprise me. Famous last words. If we came to look at it at the end of Feb and silver was trading pretty much, maybe where it is now, $17.50, that sort of area. So I think the levels to watch, 18 on the upside. If we break there, we can get some sort of momentum going. And on the downside, 16.5 to 17 to see if the buyers have come back in, because this has been a pretty solid area since August last year. Let's just take a quick look at the trades. So we had a couple of trades stopped out for profit on 14th of Jan. So what's that, about 380 on those two on the way down for silver. And at the moment, if we have a look at what we've got still running. So as usual, we've got a mix of stuff in here. Let's just tidy things up. So we've got three running down here. One's 130 against us. The other two slightly in profit and stops from 1620 up to 1730. So I think the risk is in the short term they could be under a bit more pressure, but I think it's going to be a lot more interesting if we do get back to that 16.5, $17 level. So for now, we'll just keep these running, come back to it in a couple of weeks, and hopefully things have got a little bit more interesting for silver.
So after an exciting start, a fairly flat couple of weeks, we'll see if February is any different. But for this update, we'll leave it there. So from me, David Jones and Capital.com, good luck with your trading.